For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
New year, but old problems. The India-China standoff along the line of actual control in Ladakh doesn't seem to end even in 2022. While some disengagement, as all of you know, has taken place at different friction points there, new provocations by China seems to indicate that the standoff or a permanent face-off is likely to be a regular feature in Ladakh and elsewhere. That's the topic of this week's Simply Nitin. I am Nitin Gokhale. So what exactly is the new problem that has cropped up along the LAC in Ladakh? According to Indian Army and intelligence sources and satellite imagery accessed by professionals, the Chinese have built or about to complete a new 500-meter long bridge across the Pangong or the Pangong Lake. This bridge is about 20 or 25 kilometers east of Finger 8, which India regards as the line of actual control. So legitimately, it is in the Chinese territory or Chinese controlled territory, which the Chinese have been controlling since 1958. There is a historic fort called Khurnak Fort in that area. It is next to the Khurnak Fort where this bridge has coming up or has come up or will be completed by end of January or so. Why the bridge is important? While the lake has been there for some time and there has been no bridge across the lake for quite some time. Why are the Chinese building this bridge? They are building it because in end of August 2020, the Indian forces, special forces and infantry and armored units had taken the Chinese by surprise by occupying heights on both sides of the Spangur Gap on the southern bank of the Pangong. That occupation and that operation, which was swift, which was done without the Chinese getting the whiff of it, actually forced the Chinese to sue for peace and then go for disengagement along the Finger areas where they withdrew east of the Finger 8, and Indian forces are now staying west of Finger 4. So that zone in between is now a no man's land or a no patrolling zone. This bridge is exactly about 20-25 kilometers east of Finger 8, which India regards as the line of actual control. The Chinese regard Finger 4 as the line of actual control, and that's the dispute in that area. There is this fort called Khurnak Fort, which the Chinese have been occupying since 1958. They have a company strength, which means about 100 odd defense forces or defensive positions, 100 odd men guarding that position for some time since 2020 or even earlier. Now, the area east of the LAC, which is in Aksai Chin, east of the Finger 8 actually, the Aksai Chin area has been under Chinese occupation since 1958-59, when they first built that road across the Aksai Chin, connecting Xinjiang to Tibet, and later, of course, leading to the war in 1962 and creeping forward towards the western side of Aksai Chin and coming closer to the Ladakh ranges. We have spoken about it at least a couple of times in 2020 and 2021 of how the Chinese tactics of creeping forward has meant that progressively since 1958 the Chinese have inched forward and have tried to grab more land. In this case, after the 2020 standoff that began in May 2020, and of course some disengagement took place at friction points like Finger area, then Hot Springs, Gogra, and now 2 or 3 more points are remaining when the 14th round of the Corps Commander level talks takes place, hopefully in the next fortnight or so. That disengagement for this particular standoff may take place. But the problem is permanent because the 135-kilometer long Pangong So, or the Pangong Lake, has been there for years together. It is 2/3 of it is in China or under Chinese control, and 1/3 is in Indian control. And the Chinese can do whatever they want in the areas under their control. India can do very little but watch. Apart from the bridge, which will enable them to move forces across the south and the north bank very quickly, in case India launches another surprise or another operation, swift commando or a stealthy operation, then the Chinese might be able to swing their forces from south to north bank or north bank to south bank whenever required. So it changes the dynamics of deployment as far as the Indian Army is concerned. But is the Indian Army also keeping quiet? Well, no. They have also strengthened their presence on the north bank of the Pangong So. Also, there are more means. New boats have been sanctioned and deployed, made by the Goa shipyard in Pangong So for the Indian Army. They are faster, they are lighter, and they carry more troops, as the Chinese do on their side when they do the patrolling of the Pangong So. So, the result has been since 2020 that both sides have strengthened their infrastructure, they have strengthened their deployment, they got more forces there. But the fact that the Chinese haven't stopped building infrastructure, new airstrips, new helicopter landings, new infrastructure and bases for their own troops, heated accommodations in Aksai Chin, shows that the Chinese are here to stay. So while the Chinese have brought in forces, they have improved infrastructure, they have got more and more habitats for their troops that they have brought in from other parts of the country, and especially from Xinjiang, India has also not sat idle. It has completed many projects meant for habitation infrastructure of storing missiles, tanks, also getting more ammunition and clothing for the troops during harsh winter, and of course more troops. So right now the assessment is that at least 50 to 60,000 troops are ranged against each other on their own sides, but looking at each other very warily in Ladakh and in Aksai Chin. The Chinese are in Aksai Chin, Indian troops are in Ladakh, and this improvement in infrastructure will go on because the Chinese seem to have decided that they want to stay here permanently and keep India under pressure. That's what they think. India welcomes this because if you see some of the propaganda videos from the Chinese side, they are silly, they are childish, they are puerile in fact. They have to prove all this because they are there for the first time in so many years, in 60 or 70 years. Indian soldiers on the other hand are used to getting deployed on high altitude either in Siachen or in Jammu and Kashmir and also in Ladakh. So they don't need to show this silly developments or silly acclimatization that troops do, because they do it as a routine. And in fact there was another propaganda video which the Chinese put out saying a flag that was flying over the Tiananmen Square is now being raised on 1st of January in the Galwan Valley, which was the scene of the violent clash in June 2020. Well, Galwan Valley is not just small river valley there, where the river bends, takes a bend in fact. That is the real site of clash, and that has been demilitarized after the talks in 2020 and 2021. So therefore the Chinese are not there, but they have cleverly got this video done, trying to do psychological operations against Indians, or at least trying to spook Indian citizens and Indian political leaders who immediately jumped into commenting and saying that the Chinese have now reoccupied Galwan. That's not true, because Galwan demilitarization continues to be as it was when it was decided in February 2021. Galwan Valley, most of it was occupied by the Chinese in the 62 war. So the area that we are now speaking about is the Galwan area, which was the scene of the clash, and that has completely demilitarized. Neither Indian nor the Chinese forces are in that area. So it has to be discounted, this kind of Chinese propaganda. Also, the very fact that the Chinese have to constantly demonstrate that their troops are in high altitude and they dance there and they are well acclimatized, they also eat hot food and they have got good accommodation, shows you that the Chinese are not very sure of how the troops will actually remain there and how long they will remain there, because they are not used to that kind of deployment. As I said, the Indians are far better acclimatized, they are far better used to those conditions. That apart, the Chinese intention is to just keep some of the Indian forces tied down in Ladakh so that the Indian politicians and Indian decision makers remain under pressure. And this is not only in Ladakh that this is happening. It is happening across in Arunachal Pradesh, also opposite Sikkim. We saw what happened post Dolam standoff in 2017, that the Chinese built more infrastructure, they brought in more forces in Chumbi Valley. But that is something that India keeps a watch on, but doesn't have to worry about, because what the Chinese are doing, they are doing in their own area and for their own security. India, as I said, is also taking countermeasures, be it in Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim or in Ladakh. You know that series that we did from Arunachal Pradesh, where India has beefed up its security, its capability to do operations across the McMahon line or the boundary between India and China, and go into Tibet if necessary. So all that you are aware of. So the new controversy in the new year is nothing but the old Chinese tactic of using information as a weapon and misinformation as a psychological tool to put doubts in the minds of Indians. Don't fall for it, because that is the fifth domain of warfare that the Chinese have adopted. While land, sea, air and space are kinetic operations domains, the information warfare that the Chinese unleash by resorting to disinformation, misinformation, propaganda is something that is easy to implement. They do not want a war. I repeat, I've said this earlier also, that the Chinese want to win without fighting. If they really had to occupy or defeat India in Ladakh or get a decisive victory, they would have to bring in at least 300,000 troops to overcome India's resistance in Ladakh. If India has 60,000, not 6,000, correction, 60,000 troops, it needs at least 5 to 6 times those numbers to win a decisive land battle in Ladakh. That's the ratio you have to have in the mountains when you're fighting or advancing against a well-entrenched, well-defended locality in the mountains. So therefore, a likelihood of a war against India launched by China is remote as far as I am concerned, and therefore this sniping, this kind of propaganda, this kind of misinformation, disinformation will go on. They can build as many bridges as they want, but we will see when the balloon goes up what happens as far as kinetic operations or hand-to-hand or physical operations are concerned. We are aware that the Chinese have better capability in cyber warfare or standoff weapons like missiles. But again, without saying much, I want to say this, that India has taken adequate measures so that the Chinese do not get edge or a decisive victory which they seek. Because Chinese military is 5 times the Indian military, remember? The Chinese economy is 5 times the Indian military, or the Indian economy. And therefore, if they have to win, if they need a victory, they need a decisive victory, which in this case will not be possible at the moment as we stand in 2022. So therefore, these tactics will be adopted by the Chinese aggressively and more often as we go along. So that's all I wanted to share this week. Of course, we've had some discussions over the past 2-3 days on our YouTube channel with experts, with people who know better than me as far as the Chinese psyche and the Chinese plan or possible Chinese plan is concerned. So all that I'm doing is to clarify some of these doubts and give you the idea of the locations where all this is happening. This is, of course, the second episode in 2022. We'll come up with more in Simply Nitin, but you still haven't given us the kind of boost that we wanted by taking us across the line and increasing our subscribers count on YouTube to at least 100,000. We are, I think, about 95,000 or thereabouts at the moment. Do keep spreading the word. Tell your friends, family, colleagues to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Wait for the bell icon and you will get updates whenever we do new programs and bring you new information. Until the next time, it's goodbye.